Colman Domingo and Rustin gives you almost Denzel Washington and Malcolm X vibes, even though unfortunately Rustin only focuses on a small part of Bayard Rustin's life rather than the complete beginning to end. To summarize Rustin, it's not a whole life story biopic. Instead, it focuses on the developments and execution of the 1963 March on Washington, with a focus on Bayard Rustin. It goes into his time in the NAACP, battling out with Roy Wilkins, who apparently was homophobic or didn't like Bayard because of his past in the Communist Party. Could be a whole bunch of things. And unfortunately, while Bayard Rustin really invested heavily into Martin Luther King as he was on the rise, all it took was rumors of Bayard and Martin Luther King being gay together to end their relationship temporarily. With that, Rustin got into some anti-war thing for a little while, but eventually made a major comeback in approaching the NAACP and other organizations in order to have the March on Washington. He partnered with one of his few unfailing allies in A. Philip Randolph, and while there were many challenges, whether it's from black people or else from racist senators, eventually we see Rustin create moments for others to be a major part in history, and he unfortunately, especially with the way history has been written thus far, was an unsung hero that unfortunately you would have to learn on your own rather than hear it every other year when you're in middle school and high school, like Martin Luther King Jr., or else what's often treated as his yang to his yin, Malcolm X. So, notable highlight when it comes to this is definitely the writing and also Colman Domingo's performance. Now, if you've seen Colman Domingo in Euphoria, Zora, and a few other films, even I think he was in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, the man is consistent. Even in movies that are kind of he's still very much top of the line consistent. And when it comes to this film, it feels very much like an overdue, you're the star, not part of an ensemble, it's all about you, and he just kills it. And what makes things even better is it's not just his charisma, his star presence and all that, but also the writing of Julian Brees and Dustin Lance Black, whose names I'm hopefully saying right. The combination allows Bayard Rustin to be seen as an orator. You get to understand that this man definitely was a strong influence on Martin Luther King Jr. and probably other civil rights activists. And while he may be unsung, you can never erase the fact that his prints are probably are more than we know. And truly, if Colman Domingo doesn't get nominations for major awards, even win some, then honestly, what's the point of even caring about the Academy Awards, Golden Globes, SAG, all that other stuff? Because truly, I don't think anybody can potentially come close. And one of the things that really makes me say that is this isn't some 2.5 or 3 hour movie. This is a tight, barely above 90-minute movie, yet it's still impactful. It still has multiple moments that are probably gonna make you cry, other moments that are gonna have levity and make you laugh without feeling like a cheap comic relief type of situation. And honestly, I think with the way things increasingly are, too many films feel like they have to go 2 hours, 2.5 hours to really give you the whole story. But I think when it comes to Rustin, between Domingo's performance and again the writers, and also the director, there's a respect that we're going to give you enough to get interested. We already know this is a very intriguing person, but we're just going to give you a taste of their life, give you a little bit here and there about so you can understand there's other topics that we haven't focused on, but you can look up yourself. And it feels like the best way to both highlight a major figure in history, yet at the same time respect the fact that the audience has the ability to read and look them up on their own as well. Getting into the more, I won't say basic, but definitely not so, oh my god, this is something major highlights. I really like the fact that the sainthood of civil rights leaders are removed. Because you can say with MLK in this movie, yes, he's still shown as a good person, but between dropping someone just because of gay rumors, and then sometimes being an uneasy ally in some cases, you're reminded that, none of these people were perfect. I mean, even if you want to talk about Roy Wilkins, who probably did so much in terms of the legal side for black folks getting the civil rights, at the same time, probably like a lot of civil rights leaders who were very religious, yes, they wanted to advocate for black people, but when it came to certain subsects of black people, whether you were part of the LGBTQ community, if you wasn't Christian, Catholic, Protestant, or whatever, then you're seen as low on the totem pole, less of importance, and then for your specific things that you need beyond the civil rights of just from being black, you're not a priority. You're considered extra work. You're considered too complicated, something that may make you lose whatever white or whatever support. And so, as we see with Bayard, and many times, either you're pushed to the back of the room, no matter how much work you do, or else they try to push you out the room altogether so that they don't have to deal with you, they don't have to see you, they don't have to acknowledge you. And I should also note, even though it's only in a very short piece, it also addresses the fact that the civil rights movement was very much male-dominated by design because the men didn't want to give women a proper voice. Like it mentions in the March on Washington, there were no women really invited to speak up, and it was a problem. And unfortunately, like in so many cases in history, one group, in this case black women, had to step aside or else get little acknowledgments rather than get the full force of their voice out there despite the work they did. And one of the reasons that's a highlight for me is that it acknowledges it, and it also sets it up so someone may be inspired to make a movie about Dr. Anna Hedgeman or somebody else, because I feel like with us having a new Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, either TV series, special, or movie every couple of years, we're way overdue for a movie focused on one of the black women who were civil rights icons. Or hell, even if you want to talk about Marsha P. Johnson or have them have a proper biopic and not just documentaries, something like that. It's way overdue, and I'm hoping that Rustin actually opens doors, and this is not just a case similar to Black Panther where it's like you have this one major momentous figure getting shown off and you think that's going to open doors when really it's an exception. It doesn't create a rule, which leads to our defense topic. I can watch and enjoy a long movie as shown by watching Anatomy of a Fall, which was a really good movie, but at the same time I'm more so a 90-minute, maybe an hour type of dude. And with that said, I do kind of wish that Rustin was longer and it didn't just hint to him being raised by his grandparents or, do little flashbacks about how he lost his teeth, but really developed and showed off who this man was besides his work toward the 1963 March on Washington. And the only reason I say that is, yes, this movie drops little things here and there that makes you want to follow up and learn on your own. But let's also be very much real here. A lot of people don't want documentaries. A lot of people don't really want to read if they don't have to, beyond whatever they have to read for work or just to keep up with what's happening in the culture. So to cut back on that, yes, it's good since it didn't make it so this is a long movie. It's pretty much paced the way so you can get in and get out and still feel inspired, get teary-eyed and all that. But because I can't imagine, since I don't really remember in all these MLK movies them really mentioning Rustin or really giving him his flowers, a part of me definitely thinks it's a missed opportunity to really go deep into his life, especially his personal life, since it's acknowledged he's gay, it's acknowledged that he might have had an affair with married men and stuff like that. But I don't feel like we really got to know him on a personal level besides how much being gay led to rejection in part of his life, how it was hard for him to find a partner, especially maybe a black partner. And as for who he came from and who was his influences and raised him, for the most part, those people are just talked about, not seen, and it feels, I don't want to say it's a disservice to them or even to the viewer, but I acknowledge the power of movies and television shows and forming people's opinions, influencing them, and really doing something for history and the culture. And I just think that they could have took things further in a way that, even though it would have made this film longer, at the very least, it could feel like it's less about Rustin's piece in history and more so about Rustin, the man, the civil rights icon, and also the person who, beyond the March on Washington, did so much for both black people and also the gay community. Overall, I think Rustin deserves its own pedestal, for it doesn't give us this martyr who didn't have any flaws. It gives us the truth of who that person was, some of the sins they committed. It also brings up their would-be allies who sometimes they had delicate alliances with, especially when it came to what few things they shared that they wanted to advocate for versus their personal conflicts with each other. And yes, it doesn't address every last issue or topic that you may think about or wonder when it comes to Bayard Rustin, but in this runtime, it provides enough to get you started and gives you a strong push to want to start learning on your own, especially if you're the type who has a desire or love for research.